Pour ceux qui veulent soutenir notre travail, les liens sont en description.
10 days ago, as you probably remember, images surfaced from a photo shoot done by the fashion house Balenciaga. And that shoot included images of a young girl holding a teddy bear in bondage gear. The ads, a separate set, also contained an image of a Supreme Court opinion striking down a law against child pornography with the word sex visible. None of that was accidental. They're promoting something. What are they promoting? Well, the media weren't that interested, so they kind of ignored the story. But now the story is starting to get some coverage, but the coverage isn't critical of what Balenciaga did. The coverage in the New York Times is critical of anyone who notices what Balenciaga did. The New York Times just published a piece entitled, quote, "When High Fashion and QAnon Collide." In other words, you're crazy. You're a QAnon person, probably a criminal if you notice. We're quoting. Two Balenciaga campaigns ignited a firestorm that traveled from the internet to Fox News, fueled by allegations that the brand condoned child exploitation. Why would you think that? Just because they were exploiting children in the ad. A teddy bear in bondage gear. Ooh, it sounds like QAnon stuff. Yeah, it's real.
Awesome. And it's like, look, I am not a conspiracy theory person, but when you start to see the evidence that you've got the U.S. government from a federal whistleblower that is telling you that, hey, we're essentially turning these kids over, the sex trafficking is out of control. And I've been on the southern border and built part of the wall right where they brought them across to stop it. And I saw the debris that was left over that would shake a grown man to your core to see what was left behind. When you see that you got these brothels for these small, innocent children, and they're being sex trafficked into the United States of America, then you got the high fashion houses, and you look at what these people look at. Hey, you can mock the Q people all you want. You can mock these people that maybe not even the Q people would talk about this. You mock them all they want. But they're bringing receipts right now. This Balenciaga thing, I think, strips a band. And the fact that the Kardashians of the world and the Nicole Kidmans of the world and people are associated with this brand and are not immediately saying this is outrageous and I will never take money from people that do that, calls into question the entire system. Because remember, Laura, you know, they have CAA, they have all the managers, the same people making the film, the groomer film for Disney over the weekend that flopped. That Iger comes in and says, hey, we're not stopping, we're going to even make more. It's all of a piece, okay? They're spending hundreds of millions and billions of dollars on this thing, and they have agents and they have managers, and this is all discussed. This is not random, okay? No. This is, and I'm not saying it's coordinated, but I'm saying the evidence is there for normal people to sit there and stand up and say, hey, I want to see more facts, evidence. There ought to be a massive, massive federal investigation on this one. The first thing the Republicans should do in the House, this has to be investigated. And how do you have this thing essentially about, it looks like the sexual, not just sexual exploitation, but the sexual torture of sadomasochism around tiny children? Lara Logan.
You know, Steve, it's really interesting because on the one hand, you know, I watched a few of the women from The View trying to blame this on conspiracy theorists and right-wingers and QAnon. And it really disgusted me because you never hear these people talking about the children. You never hear them addressing the issue of substance. And the only thing that matters here are the children. So, you know, they want to explain away, well, what happened here is Balenciaga is doing commercials. And what do they have? They have these teddy bears that have got bondage, and they've got children in these commercials. And people say, oh, well, you know, they made a mistake. No, somebody had to think up that ad campaign. It was discussed at meetings. Long before they got the photographers in there, the senior stylist at Balenciaga was talking to the designers and was talking to the owners of the company. You have the front management teams, right? You have the people who do the social media. You have the people who do the branding. I mean, you literally have a small army of people who make these decisions. The photographer is very often the last one who actually counts. And then when you start to peel back the layers and you see that, oh, well, this senior stylist at Balenciaga, is responsible also for, she does some work at Adidas, and you take a look at her Instagram account. Well, here's something common. That Instagram account has now been deleted, but it is full of satanic symbols. There are other pictures of teddy bears in bondage. There is a photograph of a murder scene in a child's bedroom with blood everywhere. There's, pictures like this one that have emerged since this was being reported. And there's also, it's not just this one fashion shoot. This is the important thing to remember. Balenciaga themselves have acknowledged in their public statements that there was this particular fashion shoot was an issue. They've apologized and said children shouldn't have been there, but nobody has asked them, well, why were you making childlike teddy bear purses with bondage on them in the first place? Why would you think it's appropriate to sell that and to make that and to push that? And by the way, a lot of the branding is aimed at kids, so you have that. Then they admit that in one of their other campaigns, there are some documents that there's a person sitting on these documents, and it's from a Supreme Court case, which was actually a free speech case in which the Supreme Court struck down certain safeguards for child pornography that allowed child pornography to proliferate and was widely regarded as a victory for pedophiles and pornographers. So how do those papers end up in a Balenciaga commercial where every single detail is accounted for by the stylist and the brand and the designers and the photographers and everybody else? And then there's another incident, which is one of the worst, actually, one of the most disturbing. There's another photograph in another campaign where there's a book by a Belgian guy, Martin Boremans. And Martin Boremans, well, you go down his rabbit hole and it takes you right into the world of this unspeakable images that we allow them to get away with calling art.
Vous n'avez pas entendu parler du Facteur?
Des nouvelles du Facteur.